Audiobook: How to Overcome Gadgetomania, written and voiced by Reinhard. This book was written because I once fell into this trap myself, and it brought me a lot of troubles. It was a painful realization, but it sparked something important: a drive to break free from the grip of constant gadget use. So one fine day, I sat down and wrote this guide. I aim to keep it brief, understanding that time is a luxury many can't afford, not even for healthy meals, let alone for books. But here's the truth: if you're tired of feeling overwhelmed and controlled by your phone, and if you're ready to take back control of your life, this book is for you. I hope you can spare just 1 hour to start reclaiming your freedom and make your life more manageable. In our modern world, smartphones and tablets have become as familiar and essential as the air we breathe. They help us navigate life, provide entertainment, and keep us connected. However, there's a particular aspect of using these devices that can turn into a serious problem. I refer to this phenomenon as gadgetomania. What exactly is gadgetomania? It's not simply frequent gadget use. Of course, using your smartphone or tablet to check something quickly or enjoy a movie is not a problem. If you check what you need and then put the device away or watch a film on your phone, there's nothing inherently concerning about that. Gadgetomania arises when normal usage becomes obsessive and exhausting. Gadgetomania is a state where using smartphones and tablets transitions from a habit into a compulsive and depleting interaction. It occurs when you find yourself endlessly engaged in browsing content, surfing the web, or playing games, often without much conscious control. You might be using your device, feeling that you should stop, but finding it nearly impossible to detach. There's an internal awareness that you've had enough and it's time to take a break, but the urge to continue pulling you back and persists. This condition leads to a sense of discomfort and fatigue, even when you realize that stepping away from the screen would be beneficial. Your time is consumed by constant gadget interaction, which not only drains you emotionally but also disrupts your ability to manage your time and life effectively. In this book, we will explore what gadgetomania is, how to recognize it, and how to overcome it. But before delving into the signs and consequences, let's first understand why gadgets are so captivating. Why do they pull us into their virtual world so strongly? Understanding the mechanisms behind this dependency will help us find ways to break free and regain control of our time and lives. There are two main reasons for this. First, gadgets generously promise us pleasure. These wearable devices seem to say, "Yes, you'll feel good. Just come here, just take a look." It's a very clever, though probably not intentionally designed, use of an ancient evolutionary mechanism that we have. It may not be ancient in the sense of being from our earliest ancestors, but it has been with us for a long time. This mechanism is based on dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure hormone, but that's not entirely accurate. While dopamine is involved in pleasure, it also plays a role in punishment. When something doesn't go right, we get what is known as a dopaminergic error signal. The key thing to understand is that dopamine is part of the dopaminergic system, which is fundamentally geared towards promoting movement in any direction. This applies not only to humans, but to any organism with this system. For humans, it primarily drives us to get up and go somewhere. So, more accurately, though it still simplifies things, it's better to think of dopamine as the hormone of hope, representing the belief that something will turn out well. Here's a concrete example. Imagine you're in the forest picking berries: raspberries, strawberries, blueberries. You're gathering berries in a basket, and here's what happens. As you collect, your body starts to tire, you feel hungry, the basket fills up, and you're assessing where there are more or fewer berries, where to go next. At some point, you might see a large clearing beyond a ravine with what seems like a lot of berries, perhaps red strawberries. But you've been picking for 2 to 3 hours. You're tired, hungry, and bothered by local insects. Yes, there might be many strawberries, but you would have to cross the ravine, gather them all, and then head back. It seems like too much effort, not worth the trouble. So the dopamine driven hope doesn't kick in, and you calmly head home. The internet is different. Everything is practically at your fingertips, or rather, just a small finger movement away. You just need to click here and there, and voila. This creates a false sense of hope. There's no counterbalance when we evaluate the cost and decide to skip something. On the internet, it seems there's no cost, just a slight movement of the finger and you're there. So, we always have hope that something good awaits us. While strawberries beyond the ravine in the forest don't attract us, we know there's something great on the internet of video, text, pictures, music, whatever. We know it's there, and there's no barrier. It's easy to access, so we fall for this false hope and get deeply engrossed in the internet. Additionally, there's the issue of time perception online. Research shows that we underestimate the time spent online by about threefold. It feels like we've been online for 5 minutes, but in reality, it's already been 15 minutes. The joke about the time machine being invented by the internet is not entirely a joke. You log in the evening and wake up in the morning. That's not far from the truth. This misperception of time reinforces the hope that just a bit more will be worthwhile. We think it will definitely be good, but in reality, an hour passes and we often end up feeling irritated and discontented. To summarize, smartphones draw us in with the anticipation of pleasure. We expect to feel good, thinking we just need to stay a little longer, but this hope rarely materializes, failing to meet expectations about 80% of the time, which is quite disappointing. The second reason, gadgets distract us from other problems. Intensive smartphone use often signals that something in our life isn't going well. Perhaps you're facing difficulties, feeling ill, experiencing significant stress, or struggling with something else. In such cases, the phone becomes a refuge. We dive into it because it seems like it might offer comfort or distraction. Unfortunately, this is rarely the case, as we will discuss in more detail later, that we may think that gadgets provide a distraction, but they often just amplify our issues. If the situation involves loneliness, fatigue, or other struggles, excessive smartphone use typically worsens things. That it's important to note that I'm not against technology or progress. Gadgets and smartphones are indeed wonderful. For example, if you're at the airport waiting for a flight, it's great to pass the time by scrolling through social media or playing a game designed to kill time. Using smartphones to stay in touch with others throughout the day is also beneficial. I'm all for gadgets and their uses, like staying connected with family and friends through chats and voice messages. The issue arises with excessive use. It's not about the technology itself, but rather how we use it that can lead to gadgetomania. Of course, stress also increases, especially if the smartphone is used for work at home. This means work has intruded into the home environment, which is very detrimental. It means that there is too much work. People in these situations feel obligated to respond immediately because a message arrives or an email pings. There's an immediate need to check and reply. Firstly, this yanks a person away from what they were doing and keeps them in a state of constant readiness. Always needing to respond heightens stress, making individuals more jittery and anxious. Ultimately, this accelerates burnout, including professional burnout. Clearly, this is harmful to everyone involved. Additionally, attention deficit worsens. When a person is constantly bombarded with a flow of messages and various types of information, visual, audio, or otherwise, the brain becomes overloaded. The so-called default mode network, identified by scientists, is active when a person is not engaged in a specific task, allowing thoughts to wander freely. For example, when you're washing dishes, your mind drifts through various thoughts, disconnected and harmless, simply moving from one thought to another. This wandering thought process is crucial as it gives the brain's executive system a chance to rest. It's similar to alternating between a flexing muscle and a resting muscle. You cannot always strain one muscle without allowing the other to recover. When we are constantly receiving a lot of information, the default mode network is rarely activated, making it difficult to focus on one task for any length of time, whether 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Consequently, there's an urge to constantly distract oneself, which is compounded by the need to respond because people are waiting. Worst of all, when we get distracted, returning to the original task can be very challenging. I experienced this firsthand when a social media notification popped up. I thought I'd take a quick look and respond, but then ended up answering several messages and checking other things, only to find an hour had passed and my work remained undone. After realizing this and feeling quite frustrated, I turned off all notifications for messages on social media. I decided to check them later if necessary. This approach of reducing distractions to ease gadget dependency became the basis for this training. And it was not only to help me, but also to assist you in managing gadget use. Finally, deteriorating sleep is a significant issue. Using a smartphone before bed can often lead to agitation. While not always the case, it frequently happens. Individuals might read upsetting news or encounter disturbing content, causing an increase in heart rate and shallow breathing, making it harder to fall asleep. Disrupted sleep leads to a cascade of problems: impaired memory, decreased cognitive function, difficulty in decision making, and increased distractibility. This ultimately contributes to weight gain. Poor sleep causes hormonal imbalances that lead to false hunger signals, making individuals feel hungry even without additional calorie expenditure. Consequently, people may overeat, not due to actual hunger, but because of hormonal disruptions. Now it's time to address what exactly gadget mania is. There's a slippery aspect to this because there are no formal criteria for what constitutes abuse. You can't say that if you spend 20 hours on your phone, you have gadget mania, or if you check social media updates 18 times a day, you have gadget mania. It's not quantifiable in terms of numbers. However, there are 5 signs that indicate things might not be going well. And if you experience at least 2 of these signs, it's definitely worth considering. What are these signs? Firstly, problems with task completion at work or at home. If you constantly get distracted by your phone, spend too much time on it, and can't focus on your work or household responsibilities, this indicates problems with completing tasks. The second sign is isolation from family and friends. If you spend less time with loved ones, such as your spouse, children, friends, or parents, because of your phone, this is a form of isolation. For example, if you're having a meal together but are constantly glued to your phone, scrolling, reading, and this happens regularly, that's isolation. If someone tells you, come on, enough with the phone, interact with us, that's genuine self isolation. And if you feel that no one in real life understands you, but everyone online does, that is also a sign of isolation from family and friends. This is a worrying signal as well. Thirdly, hiding smartphone usage. When you conceal your phone usage so that no one can see, not just checking a message or planning a surprise, but when you hide the fact that you are on your phone and react awkwardly when someone, like a child, approaches while you're on your phone, this is also concerning. Fourth, fear of missing out on important information. As discussed before, you might feel that if you don't check social media or news feeds, you'll miss something crucial. And if you don't see it, something irreparable could happen to you. This is more of a perception rather than reality. Lastly, if you feel you don't enjoy using your phone but can't seem to get away from it, and you want to stop but can't, that's another important sign. To reiterate. Experiencing at least 2 of these 5 signs indicates that something serious might be happening, and it's essential to take action immediately. Let's now turn to how to address the situation. The first step is to start with an assessment. When making any change, it is useful to gather information first. It's possible that it only seems like there is a problem, and there might not be one at all. In that case, you would be expending time, effort, and money for no reason. Why waste resources? Start by collecting information, as is always the case. If we want to change something, we first gather data. For example, if we want to make adjustments to our car, we take it for a diagnostic check and specify what we don't like about it. The result may be that something is indeed broken, or everything might be fine, and our concern was unfounded. If we had immediately dived into fixing things without this check, we might have created additional issues. So, whether it's a car or a gadget habit, the approach is the same. Start with observation. How should you observe? I recommend keeping a kind of observation journal with two columns. One for the time you checked your smartphone, and the other for why you checked it. So, you have two columns. For instance, 6 a.m. Check phone to avoid falling back asleep. I woke up, the alarm went off, and I checked my phone just to keep my eyes occupied and avoid falling back asleep. Your task is to maintain this log. Doing this for 5 days should be sufficient. More than that might not provide additional benefits. You'll likely see patterns emerge within these 5 days. Note every instance you check your phone and the reason behind it. It might turn out that 2 or 3 days are enough because you'll notice a repeating pattern. For example, if it consistently happens when you're bored, you might see, I got bored, so I picked up my phone, and so on. If this pattern repeats, you can stop recording once you've identified the main causes. Remember, it's not about how long you spend on your phone each time. What matters is when and why you use it. If you check your phone once for 20 minutes, that's not as important. What we're interested in is the reasons behind your usage. Why did you check your phone? This is far more crucial. So, keep a record of every phone check, which will give you your observation journal. Once you've completed this, analyze and interpret your journal. The key is to identify patterns. What regularities do you see? Perhaps you use your phone more often at certain times of day, like in the morning or evening. Is there a common reason for checking your phone, such as boredom or anxiety or work-related needs? Your goal is to carefully examine and identify all patterns. The more you can find, the better. Understanding these patterns will help you know how to address the issue effectively. Certainly, the most important focus should be on identifying the triggers, those stimuli that prompt you to reach for your phone. When do you grab your phone? Is it when you're bored, when you want to avoid a difficult task, when you need entertainment, when you're feeling down, or when you're trying to avoid a decision? These are just a few examples, and there could be many more. It's not necessary to compile an exhaustive list. What's crucial is understanding your specific triggers and what prompts you to reach for your phone. Sometimes, the reasons can be quite amusing. For instance, I was reading a professional book, something very interesting and helpful for my work. Despite enjoying it, I felt an urge to grab my phone and browse the internet. I was surprised. Why, when I'm engaged with something beneficial, do I want to distract myself? Upon reflection, I realized the book was complex and required deep thought. I was reading almost compulsively, and the urge to check my phone was actually a desire for a break. I wanted to pause, activate that default mode system I mentioned earlier, and give my brain a short rest. Instead of diving into distractions, I started closing the book and either looking out the window or simply closing my eyes for about 30 seconds. This small break allowed my mind to relax before returning to the book. Now let's try to come up with alternative ways to behave in these situations. I've already mentioned one example, closing your eyes and simply taking a break. Of course, this is not the only method. For instance, you could try finger exercises. I had carpal tunnel syndrome at one point, which caused pain in my wrists. I started doing finger exercises, which helped alleviate the pain. As a bonus, it also reduced my phone usage since I couldn't scroll through social media while doing the exercises. What are finger exercises? You can easily find them on YouTube. They involve specific movements for your fingers. There are many variations, and you can even come up with your own. The key is to engage in activities that entertain you and also help your hands, especially if you spend a lot of time typing. Of course, finger exercises are not the only option. Depending on the reason for reaching for your phone, you can try different things. For example, if boredom is the main reason, you could talk to someone, stretch, look out the window, drink some water, or do something else that if you want to postpone making a decision, you might discuss it with someone or write down your options on paper. If you need a break, taking a 15-minute nap can be very refreshing. Your task is to come up with various ways to manage your state without using your smartphone. Moreover, you can create a list of alternative activities, things you enjoy that don't involve your phone. When you feel the urge to reach for your phone, you can pick something from this list instead. For instance, you could do eye exercises. While they may not significantly improve vision, they can offer some relaxation and pleasure. Alternatively, breathing fresh air by opening a window can help if you feel tired due to a lack of oxygen in your workspace. Many people feel fatigued when the air is lacking in oxygen, and fresh air can help rejuvenate you while keeping you away from your phone. In one case, someone created a list of 45 alternatives and methodically tried them. They would work through a few items from the list each day. Eventually, they found it interesting to try everything on the list. Instead of reaching for their phone, they would consult the list and choose an activity. By doing this, they broke their reflex of turning to the phone when feeling bored or down. The phone became just one of many options, leading to a greater sense of freedom and satisfaction. The reasons for phone use can vary greatly. What's important is to identify your own triggers. In your journal, it's crucial to note recurring reasons and see which ones occur most frequently. Once you've identified the common triggers, you can move to the next step in addressing the issue. I want to specifically mention communication. It's much better to communicate face to face. I understand that this isn't always possible. For instance, if a spouse is away on a business trip, face to face communication isn't feasible. It's clear that gadgets are indispensable in such cases. However, if the situation isn't so extreme, it's better to communicate directly. The problem arises when you need to find a topic of conversation, which doesn't always happen naturally. But this can be resolved. You can create context for conversation. In the past 15 years, there has been a surge of engaging board games that are much more varied than Monopoly or similar games from my childhood. And these are great for playing in a large group. If the conversation isn't flowing and you feel like reaching for your phone, you can grab a board game, and suddenly the conversation will pick up with opportunities for jokes, impressions, and discoveries, making the phone unnecessary. That if board games aren't appealing, you can make dumplings together, cook, or engage in other activities. Anything that provides context. This makes communication easier and reduces the need for a smartphone. I just wanted to emphasize that face to face communication is generally better. It's true that if you're working and your colleagues are busy, it's not always appropriate to interrupt them. However, at home, if you find yourself unsure of what to do and reaching for your phone, try focusing on communication. To facilitate this, create a context such as making dumplings together. And finally, a very important point, your feelings after using the phone. Imagine you check your gadget, spend an hour online, browse social media, or played a game. When you finally put it down, how do you feel? Did it really make you feel better? Did you feel a surge of energy, relaxation, or satisfaction? Did you feel like you could conquer mountains or achieve something significant? In reality, you might find that the phone only promised pleasure but didn't deliver. The pleasure you expected didn't materialize. You didn't feel a boost of energy or satisfaction. You scrolled, watched content at double speed, and it didn't make you feel any better. It's important to evaluate your feelings after each phone use, or at least after each significant use. To help with this, you can create a special table. The table should have three columns. 1. Duration of use. 2. What you did. 3. Feelings afterward. For example, you might write, I spent 7 minutes checking my email and felt happy. This could happen if you received a great email. Or, I spent 12 minutes reading news on various Telegram channels and felt depressed. If you felt worse, It means the phone didn't bring the expected benefit. Your task is to fill out this table after each use. Unlike the observation log, this may require more than just 5 days. You might need to keep it up for 2 to 3 weeks, depending on your experience. The main goal is to track and see how phone use actually affects you. This will help you understand that the promised pleasure didn't materialize. This will help you see that the reflex of reaching for the phone when feeling depressed, bored, or anxious is gradually weakening. You will literally see that the pleasure you get from using the phone is not as great as it seems or doesn't bring as much joy as expected. For example, if you spend 5 hours a day on your phone, but only enjoy 40 minutes of that time, and the rest seems meaningless, you might consider replacing that time with something else. You already know what alternatives you can use e.by the way. You could create a similar table for alternative activities. 1. Duration of alternative use. 2. What was the alternative, e.g., eye exercises or finger exercises? 3. Sensations afterward. Good, great, a burst of energy. By comparing these columns, you will see how much better these alternatives are compared to using gadgets. This doesn't mean gadgets are bad. They are useful, and reading news and Telegram channels can indeed be enjoyable. But the issue is with the volume and proportions. My experience shows that for most people, the pleasure from using gadgets is much less than expected. This table will help you verify this from your own experience. The table also has another advantage. It helps reduce the fear of missing out. When you see that using the phone hasn't brought any benefit, the fear of missing something important will decrease, even if only slightly. You will better understand the groundlessness of this fear. The most important thing is that you will still learn about important news. Nothing else matters. Constantly monitoring the news doesn't benefit people. We may think we're staying up to date, but if we don't act on what we've read, it's all in vain. You could postpone it to tomorrow or the day after. For example, if you saw news about a currency drop and reacted to it, it could be important. But if you saw the currency drop, felt anxious, and did nothing, then the news wasn't significant. All minor news can stay in social media feeds and should not clutter your mind. This table will help you get rid of the fear of missing out because you'll see that waiting doesn't mean missing something important. Let's put this all together into something like an algorithm. First, let's agree on something. We are not against gadgets. We don't want to give up our devices because they are useful and convenient. No, what we are interested in is freedom from them so that we can decide when and how much to use them. We want to avoid reaching for them out of boredom and only use them when we truly need to. This is the freedom we are striving for. Step 1. Prepare for a long-term effort. This will not be easy or quick. It's not enough to listen to this audio once. You will need to listen to it several times and start applying its advice. The first effects will become noticeable in about 2 weeks, more stable effects in about 3 months, and a significant improvement in about a year. I say about because it will vary from person to person, but it definitely will not happen in 2 or 3 days. It will require a lot of time, around a year, but by then, you will achieve the freedom you seek. Step 2. Examine how you use your phone. Step 3. Determine what you want from phone usage. Is it for utility, entertainment, or something else? When do you want to use it? And when do you not want to? Understanding how you use your phone will help you figure out what you want from it and where to aim. Step 4. Identify what triggers you to reach for your smartphone. Think about what you can use to replace the device in those moments. These are the substitutes and triggers we discussed earlier. Step 5. Focus on your feelings after each phone use. Did you enjoy it? Did it feel good and interesting? What is your current state? Document your feelings. This is crucial. Step 6. Finally, stop when you are satisfied with the current situation. Endless work is not necessary. Of course, this doesn't mean you should only observe. You need to use substitutes and look at the results, whether you liked it or not. Regularly adjust your behavior and go through this algorithm regularly. But this is the general scheme. I also want to mention something very important that you will definitely experience. At some point, you might fail. You might feel like you've forgotten everything and find yourself reaching for your phone again. You might think, I didn't succeed. This is normal. In professional jargon, this is called a setback, meaning a return to previous habits. There's nothing to worry about. It's a natural process. All you need to do is reduce the load significantly and continue moving toward your goal. Reducing the load means, for example, stopping everything you were doing and maybe returning to listening to this audio. I won't go into more detail about setbacks here. I have a course on how to learn better where I cover this in detail because setbacks are a common part of learning. Here are 4 life hacks to help you more easily manage your phone usage and work towards freedom from it. Life hack 1: designate specific spots for your phone at home. Determine a specific place in your home where you will keep your phone and avoid carrying it with you around the house. When the phone is within reach, it's easier to grab it automatically. If it's not within sight, you may not even remember it's there or feel the urge to check it. Ideally, this spot should be away from your bed, perhaps in a hallway or a drawer where you don't frequently go. When you come home, place your phone there, preferably while it's charging. Only handle your phone if you receive a call or need to send a message. If someone can't reach you, it's not a big deal. Important matters will find you, and non urgent things can wait until tomorrow. The key is to not carry your phone with you throughout the house, especially not to the bathroom or bedroom. This will definitely reduce your phone usage. Life hack 2: keep your phone out of the bedroom. As mentioned, phones can be stimulating and disrupt your sleep. Keep your phone away from your bed. Use a mechanical alarm clock or a simple digital clock instead. If you want to read before bed, opt for a physical book or listen to music through a smart speaker, avoiding any screens before sleep. Life hack 3: phone stack challenge. When you're with others who are also glued to their phones, suggest a fun challenge. Place all phones face down in a stack on the table. The first person to reach for their phone pays for dessert or takes on a larger share of the bill. This game is both energizing and entertaining. It helps break the habit of constantly reaching for your phone and makes the experience more enjoyable. You can adjust the rules to be stricter or more lenient, but the main idea is to agree not to use phones when together, fostering more interaction and weakening the phone related reflex. Life hack 4: gradually extend intervals between phone checks. If you check your phone every minute or every 5 minutes, start by extending the time between checks. For example, if you currently check every 5 minutes, try every 6 minutes. If you check every 15 minutes, try every 20. Continuously increase the time between phone checks in small steps. While a full day without checking might not be feasible initially, progressively extend the intervals, starting with 5 minutes, then 15, then 45, and so on. This gradual process is easy to follow and will help reduce your phone usage over time. To help a teenager who is excessively glued to their phone, first, be a good role model. It's important to model the behavior you want to see in your child. If you can't put your own phone down, it's unlikely your child will. Show them that you can manage your phone use responsibly, and it will be easier for them to follow your example. Next, create phone free zones in your home. Designate areas where phones are not allowed, such as the dining table or common rooms. Make it a rule that everyone must interact and engage in conversation without their phones. This encourages quality time together and reduces distractions from devices. Encourage your teenager to explore interests and engage in social activities. Often, excessive phone use stems from boredom or a lack of other activities. Introduce them to various extracurriculars or hobbies to help them discover what they enjoy. Even regular family walks or quality time can make a difference. Additionally, have a conversation with your teenager about their struggles. They might use their phone excessively as a way to cope with stress or issues at school or with friends. Understanding what might be troubling them and addressing the root cause of their phone use can be more effective than simply restricting their device. Finally, seek external support if needed. Sometimes teenagers might not be open to advice from their parents. In such cases, getting help from trusted figures outside the family, like uncles, aunts, grandparents, coaches, or mentors, can provide additional guidance and support that may resonate more with your teenager. By implementing these strategies, you can help your teenager develop healthier phone habits and find a better balance with technology. So, now you know what to do to overcome gadget addiction. It's not an easy path, and you definitely need to listen to this audio at least two more times before you start working on it. But I'm confident that you can succeed. You will achieve freedom from your gadgets. Get to work. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at L Ride Hard. On my channel, you can find other materials that will help you stay healthy, prosperous, and loved.